Welcome. You are tuned into Community Chat. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host for this segment. Joining us today is State Auditor Suzanne Bump. Auditor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Delighted to be with you again, Kevin.
I want to make sure we get a good, meaty conversation ahead of us, multiple topics. And I'm a believer of always trying to start out a conversation on the right foot. And I think it's warranted to talk a little bit about something that your office actually has been bestowed an award, a special projects award, provided or given by the National State Auditors Association. I believe that the award was given because of the report that was done on the police and training accountability. What does it mean to receive such an honor and recognition for your office?
Well, the State Auditors Association is the one that, first of all, conducts the peer reviews of all the state auditors' offices around the country in order to ensure that we are meeting the standards that are set by the Government Accountability Office. But in addition to that, it serves as a training vehicle for all of us who are in government auditing at the state and local levels, because we are required to receive certain number of continuing education credits in the course of the year. It serves as a networking function, and then it also does have, what, if you will, a contest every year. And awards recognition for a variety of different kinds of work that state auditors produce in the course of a year. There's a forensic audit category, a small audit, and small being measured by the number of hours devoted to it, category, a large audit category, and then there's a special projects category. And we had previously won actually in one of the audit categories, but this time we won in the special projects category. And it was a report that came out not from our audit unit, but rather our Division of Local Mandates. We've talked many times about local mandates, Kevin. Those requirements passed down to cities and towns by the state, and we judge whether state should be paying for a certain thing or the local taxpayers should. And in this case, we're actually started out by looking at the costs that municipalities were bearing for municipal police training, not the initial training of police officers, but the ongoing training that's required of municipal police officers. We have the highest requirement in the country in Massachusetts of 40 hours, but we found that many municipalities were not able to provide 40 hours worth of training to their police officers for budgetary reasons. The state was contributing, frankly, minimally to police training while it was falling to local taxpayers to do so. But in the course of looking at that issue and naturally talking to a lot of police officers and chiefs and others involved with law enforcement, we started looking at the issue of police accountability. And one of the problems that we saw was, in addition to not having an enforcement mechanism for ensuring there were 40 hours of training, we also found that there was an inability on the part of police chiefs to know what disciplinary records were of someone who might want to move from one police department to another, and just a lack of training standards. And that report that we released at the end of 2019 came to figure prominently in the police reform debate and legislation that ultimately was passed into law at the end of 2020. And so it was for that work that we were recognized.
So when did you find out that you were nominated? Or what's the process that you find out and, that you have been nominated and your peers have recognized the work of your office?
Well, the work, we all submit your examples of our work in various categories. I happened this year to sit on the small performance audit award committee. Sorry. And believe me, there are some amazing submissions that get submitted by my peers across the country. And we really use these to learn from one another. This is a great vehicle for enhancing our own sense of what's possible within our respective offices. And so there were always multiple candidates. I don't remember exactly how many candidates there were for the special projects. I think that there were 8 or 10 in this category, and we were notified in May that at the annual conference of the state auditors that just occurred at the beginning of June, that we were winning in that category. So we're very excited about that, and got the opportunity at the conference then to present, to do a presentation on the report.
Well, congratulations to you and your office on the hard work and on the prestigious award that was bestowed upon you.
Thank you.
Great way to start out.
Thanks.
The favorite part of our conversations that you and I have is the work that your office does, especially when it conducts an audit, provides insight on their findings, and even recommendations to remedy the issues. One of the 2 reports that you and I are going to discuss today is about the Massachusetts State Lottery Commission, looking at its agents, reconciliation reports, and preventative ways that family members of the lottery employees are not claiming prizes or cashing in winning tickets. Right. What led to an audit like this?
Well, the lottery is one of those agencies that we look at on a pretty regular basis. When we had last audited the agency, which goes back 5 or so, maybe more years ago, we found there were a number of problems with their, principally with their oversight of their agents. Those are the folks that sell the lottery tickets to you at your local convenience store, and also of the way they were handling tickets. And so naturally, when we went back this time, we wanted to see if they had made any improvements in the areas where we pointed out that they really weren't conforming, not just to best practices, but they weren't conforming to their own written standards or the law, for that matter. And we found that there really has been a lot of improvement there, but there still is room for further improvement. So you had mentioned that records checks was one of the findings. All the lottery agents are required to go through not just an initial background check, but continuing background checks, particularly with regard to criminal offenses that could indicate, a propensity to embezzle or steal or otherwise cheat, and they had been really quite far behind in doing those regular checks. They were able, even during our audit, to put into operation some new software which is allowing them to do an even better job and clear up the backlog that they had. It's important, obviously, that their agents be able to show their personal integrity if they're going to be handling these very valuable prizes that are represented by the tickets that they're selling. So that was an area where they have made considerable progress, and we were really glad to see that. They still have a ways to go in completely reconciling the books and the inventories of agents who retire or get terminated or transfer their license or what have you. But even there, they had shown considerable progress that had been made after we had pointed out that they were deficient in this particular area. And then one of the last thing was that, of course, if you're a lottery agent, if you are a lottery employee, you and your family members are prohibited from participating in the lottery. You can't buy tickets, you can't claim prizes, and so the lottery, when they have a winner, something more substantial than a scratch ticket, runs through a screening process to ensure that the person claiming a prize was actually legally entitled to buy the ticket in the first place. And when we did our data match, when we ran their numbers against the addresses that were given, we found that there were some 3 or 4 dozen individuals whose reported addresses and identities really needed to be checked out further. Their own system hadn't caught these, these that bore further examination. So we pointed that out to them. They, in their response to the audit, which is, and their response to the audit is contained in the final audit report, indicated that after we pointed it out to them, they ran those 39 and found that they were not related to any lottery agents or employees. So we regard this as your real progress on the part of the lottery. I'm really appreciative of the attention given to our audit by the director of the lottery and treasurer, Deborah Goldberg. They took this very seriously, and this is exactly what audit's supposed to do. Not just call out bad behavior and try to give somebody a bad rap, but point them in directions constructively so that they can improve the integrity of their operations. So the lottery's on a good path, which is good news to all of us taxpayers.
And again, if you're just tuning in, we are speaking with State Auditor Suzanne Bump, and we're talking a little bit about an audit that was done with the Massachusetts State Lottery. Interesting that you had mentioned that they're on the right path. I mean, the monies that are brought in by the lottery, some of that money goes towards local aid. So it's
That's right.
It's a key proponent.
That's right. No, they're a huge component of the local government revenue base.
And also other note here in the press release that I was provided, that the lottery actually did state that they're actually going to be implementing a new policy as of this month when it comes to customer service staff and record claimants, the name and all the information. Correct? Right.
And that's what we want to do. We want to help people. It's very easy. I completely appreciate this. I've run agencies myself. It's really easy to be so focused on one mission, one aspect of your mission, that some of the other things fall away. And that's what audits help you do. They help you focus on maybe the less urgent, but nonetheless important functions of your operation.
So we go from our conversation on the state level and talking about the lottery to talking right in the backyard here, locally. BAMSI, the Brockton Area Multi-Service Incorporated, there was an audit done in regards to what they were doing, state funds and in their inventory. Talk to us about this particular audit itself.
Sure. So the Brockton Area Multi-Services is an organization that's existed since the 70s. They are a large organization operating in a number of not just South Shore counties, but also out as far as Worcester. They are providers of services to families and children and folks with disabilities. So a wide range of services provided by this organization, which has a substantial budget. Let me tell you, it's close to $100 million, most of which comes from state government. So that means, as a major government contractor, that they are you're subject to audit by the state auditor's office, because we obviously want to make sure that that folks providing services are, number one, properly spending the money, and number two, delivering the services that they're contracted to provide. So we did find that there were some deficiencies. I mean, frankly, in the context of a $100 million budget, they weren't. The dollar value was not great. Most of it came in the area of accounting, in the executive director's office, paying for things out of state funds that weren't allowable, vehicle insurance, life insurance policies, and the like. So there's that financial matter. But we also look at the way they handle other aspects of their internal operations. And so we looked at their controls over their inventory. Can they account for all of the goods that they acquired? It could be appliances for some of the residences that they support in their programming. It could be computer equipment. It could be really anything. And we found that they really didn't have what we regarded as best practices in keeping track of all of that property, because, as I said, a lot of it is paid for with state dollars. So they indicated that they would be changing their policies. They were not tracking everything below a certain dollar amount, which frankly was a pretty substantial amount, $5,000. I mean, there are a lot of things that they were buying for less than $5,000, which to our thinking should have been tracked to make sure that it wasn't being stolen from anybody outside or even inside the organization, and that everything was properly insured. So there was that issue. And we also took issue with the fact that some of the donations that they had received from individuals that were supposed to be dedicated to just certain purposes, or so-called restricted donations, were being mixed in with general donations, and they weren't really going to the specific purpose that the donor had in mind. So, as I say, in the overall scheme of things, the dollar value of their deficiencies was not great, but the audit still stands for the principle that there are standards and contract provisions to which they must adhere for the benefit of their clients and also for the benefit of the taxpayers that are supporting those. And the agency was most cooperative and agreed with our findings and is taking remedial steps. So, and again, that's just what we want from an auditee.
And as you had mentioned, the dollar amounts were small. Again, talking about $100 million that passes through that they deal with. But do you find that with a lot of different agencies and organizations that you deal with, that while they're on the right track, that everybody could always do better?
Well, by and large. On the other hand, just a few weeks ago, we issued an audit of a human services provider in Western Massachusetts, and we found considerable financial wrongdoing out there. A lot of self-enrichment by the executive director, accumulation through some 40 different credit cards of airline travel rewards that should have gone to the benefit of the organization that he was using for personal use, and a variety of other really inappropriate uses of state funds. So, sometimes the transgressions are small, and sometimes they are quite large.
In your, nearly 3 terms of serving as auditor, has there ever been a case, you talk about it, an instance like that where there's, self-gratification using something that's an organizational type thing that should have been paid back to the organization, but yet it's personal gain. Is there something that comes to mind that, during an audit, you learned about a certain aspect or way an organization was run, and you just scratch your head and you go, how did this happen? How did it go off the tracks?
Unfortunately, yes, I've had that. I've had that experience, and not just with private organizations, but sometimes with state agencies that have boards or commissions that are supposed to be overseeing them. And it really, what's really bothersome to me is that private organizations like BAMSI and like this other service provider, they do have boards of directors. And too frequently, I think the boards of directors of these organizations don't understand that they are not there just to support the mission of the organization. They're there because of the kids, or they're there because of the elderly persons that get served, or they're there because of the environment. They also have, under law, actually, a fiduciary obligation. They are supposed to be looking at finances. That's part of the role of every member of every board of directors. How's the money being spent? How are we making sure that all of our resources are being properly used? It's all about the orderly administration of the organization, because those even if you're not getting state money, you still have an obligation to the people that you're servicing, the people that you're looking to for donations. And that means that you are you are always required, in fact, to ask uncomfortable questions of the executive director. And sometimes you get friendly with them. They're people that you know from the community, and you don't really want to embarrass them or cause any waves. But in fact, that is your responsibility as a board member. It's to ask those uncomfortable questions. And both the Attorney General's office and the Inspector General's office do run programs for board members to help them appreciate that this is their role. And it shouldn't be taken personally. The questions shouldn't be asked, of a personal nature and with someone with some sort of vendetta or agenda, other than what's good for the organization.
Talking about uncomfortable questions, it's a perfect segue. I learned prior to our conversation here that you have decided you will not seek a 4th term. What led to that decision that you did not want to, knowing that you have worked so hard to set a standard and your mission is transparency and accountability? Why do you want to decide to leave office after 3 terms? Well,
part of the answer is in the question itself. 3 terms. Right now, I'm in my 11th year. By the time my term is over in January of 2023, it will have been 12 years. I'm just as dedicated to the work of the office as I ever was. But I think that that change is good. I'm very proud of what we've done. In some respects, hate to go because, the next person's going to come in and do things differently. And I not looking forward to that, but I do think that new ideas can bring this organization to even higher levels of achievement. And I just want to give somebody else the chance to do that. There are a lot of talented people out there, a lot of people who really care about government accountability, who understand the role of the auditor and as really as someone who analyzes the performance of state agencies, tries to make things better. I think there are other people that can do this job. At least I hope so.
So probably my last question. So is there a new adventure that awaits you? Is it higher office? Do we hear Governor Bump, President Bump, or is it some other endeavor that is calling you?
No, as I stated in the letter that I sent to, that email that I sent out to some of my supporters, I am not contemplating running for a higher office.
President Bump?
I still want to find a way to, further the mission of government accountability. I am sitting on a national board for a period of time beyond my term of office. I'm sure there will be other opportunities for me out there, but I'd like to just take a little time off and see what else I might be able to do in my life.
Well, I hope that we still have a few more conversations down the road before you decide to leave office. It's been an honor and a privilege to be able to speak to you on a nearly regular basis, depending on the work in your office, an award-winning team that you indeed have.
Right.
And again, congratulations, not only on the award, but also thank you for the time that we've had over the years. And, hopefully in your new endeavor, we can continue to talk.
Well, thank you. I've really appreciated all of our opportunities to get together and appreciate the indulgence of your audiences as well.
She is State Auditor Suzanne Bump. She has been our guest. Auditor, again, thank you.
Very welcome, Kevin.
And we want to thank you for tuning in to a program like Community Chat. If there is a conversation that you would like to see on this program, maybe you'd like to serve as host of this program, send an email to info@abingtoncamp.tv. Until next time, have a great day.